The blue sky over Geneva turned black as the alien ships blocked the sun. People in the street stopped and looked up. Some ran. Some took pictures with their phones. Some just stood frozen in place. Staff Sergeant Jack Miller watched from the window of his hotel room. His jaw tightened as he counted the vessels. At least 30 of them, each bigger than an aircraft carrier. The Marines had sent him to Switzerland as part of the security detail for the emergency United Nations session. Nobody expected the aliens to show up in person. "Miller, get your gear. They're landing at the UN building." Captain Rogers' voice came through his radio. Jack grabbed his uniform jacket and service pistol. The weapon felt useless against beings who could travel between stars, but orders were orders. 20 minutes later, he stood at attention inside the Grand Assembly Hall as world leaders fidgeted nervously in their seats. The doors opened. The aliens walked in. Jack had seen pictures from the first contact 6 days ago, but seeing the Valkyrie in person made his skin crawl. They stood 7 feet tall with 4 arms and skin that looked like polished metal. Their faces had no mouth, just glowing blue eyes and slits where a nose should be. They moved with unnatural smoothness, like liquid mercury given form. The lead. Alien wore golden armor that made soft clicking sounds as it walked. Without speaking, it raised a small device. A hologram appeared above the assembly floor, an image of Earth spinning slowly. "Your world is now under Valkyrie protection," a mechanical voice translated. "Resistance is unnecessary. We bring order to primitive species." The UN Secretary General stood up. "We welcome peaceful contact, but Earth is a sovereign planet. We are not primitive and we do not need protection." The lead Valkyrie's eyes pulsed brighter. "Amusing. Your species still fights itself over resources and territory. You have nuclear weapons but have not mastered your violent instincts. Scans show your warriors hesitate before killing. This biological weakness makes you unsuitable for self-governance." Jack felt his face grow hot. The alien was calling human decency a weakness. "We have studied your conflicts," the Valkyrie continued. "Humans lack the evolutionary programming for efficient warfare. You will be better used as labor resource. Your military forces will be disbanded." The room erupted in shouts and protests. The Secretary General tried to restore order, but the damage was done. The Valkyrie had not come to talk. They had come to take over. 3 days later, Jack found himself back in the same room. The world governments had tried to resist. It had been a disaster. The Valkyrie weapons simply turned off electrical systems. Tanks stopped. Planes fell from the sky. Communications went dead. Without firing a shot that killed anyone, the aliens had disabled Earth's military capacity in less than 2 hours. Now they were back to detail the terms of surrender. "The transition will be peaceful if you cooperate," the Valkyrie commander explained. "We require mining rights to all planetary resources. Human populations will be relocated to efficiency centers for work assignments." "And if we refuse?" asked the American president. The lead Valkyrie raised its device again. This time the hologram showed New York City. With a simple gesture, the image of the United Nations headquarters building disappeared in a flash of light. "That building is now gone," the alien said simply. "It was evacuated first as a courtesy. Next time, perhaps not." Jack watched as the world leaders' faces fell. This wasn't a negotiation. It was a list of demands from beings who could wipe out cities without effort. Later that night in the hotel bar, Jack sat with other military personnel from around the world. None of them were drinking. All of them were angry. "They think we're weak because we have rules about killing," said a Russian lieutenant named Petrov. "They think compassion makes us soft." "They don't understand humans at all," agreed Captain Liu from the Chinese delegation. "We don't hesitate because we can't kill. We hesitate because we know exactly what killing means." Jack nodded slowly. "They have no concept of war crimes, do they? No Geneva Convention. No rules of engagement." A British officer named Edwards leaned forward. "That's because their entire species thinks like conquerors. They've probably never encountered anyone who fought back in a way they didn't expect." Jack stared into his untouched glass of water. Something was forming in his mind. A dangerous idea. What if that's their weakness? He said quietly. They think they know what humans are capable of based on our rules. They have no idea what happens when those rules come off. The table went silent. Are you suggesting we fight dirty? Lou asked. Jack shook his head. I'm suggesting we make them understand why we created rules in the first place. Humans aren't weak. We're so good at killing each other that we had to make rules to stop ourselves. The next morning, the aliens announced their terms to the world. Earth would become a protected resource planet. Humans would be allowed to continue living under Valkyrie supervision. Military forces would be disbanded. Resources would be extracted for the greater good of the Valkyrie Empire. As Jack stood at his post watching the alien delegation, he noticed something. They never looked at the human guards. They didn't consider them a threat. In the aliens' minds, the matter was settled. The occupation officially began 1 week later. Valkyrie ships landed in major cities. Their tall, metallic forms walked human streets, directing people with mechanical voices. Report for assessment. Vacate this district. Surrender all weapons. Most people obeyed. What choice did they have? Jack Miller didn't report for his assessment. Instead, he went underground, using his military contacts to move secretly around the country. He wasn't the only one. All over the world, soldiers and civilians who refused to accept defeat were slipping away, watching, waiting. 3 months into the occupation, Jack sat in a basement in Chicago with 20 other former military personnel from 6 different countries. They're strip mining the planet, said Susan Harper, formerly Navy intelligence. And the efficiency centers are labor camps. People go in, but satellite images show nobody comes out. Jack looked around the room at the determined faces. Former enemies now united by a common threat. The Valkyrie think they understand human warfare because they've studied our conflicts, he said. But they've only seen what we do when we follow the rules. They have no idea what we're capable of when our survival is at stake. He stood up and unfolded a map on the table. They want to see real human warfare. Then let's give them a lesson in why we created the concept of war crimes in the first place. Around the table, heads nodded. The resistance had begun. The captured Valkyrie scout ship became the Resistance's greatest asset. Hidden in an old aircraft hangar deep in the Appalachian Mountains, the vessel provided secrets that changed everything. Dr. Neal worked day and night studying the alien technology. Susan Harper and her team broke into the ship's computer systems. The Valkyrie prisoner, whom they called Blue for its eye color, was kept in a secure room. Jack Miller visited Blue daily, asking questions about Valkyrie weaknesses. At first, the alien refused to speak, but isolation took its toll. Valkyrie were social creatures, Jack learned. Being alone was torture for them. Your people view us as food, Jack said during one visit. Did you ever consider we might have our own plans for you? Blue's eyes flickered nervously. Valkyrie are superior. You can kill this body, but the High Fleet will avenge me. Jack smiled. We don't want to kill you, that would be too easy. He slid photos across the table, images of Valkyrie ships burning in Brazil, Australia, and Russia. The resistance was growing stronger worldwide. Impossible, Blue whispered. Human weapons cannot harm our ships. We're not using just weapons, Jack explained. We're using fear. Your people never experienced fear before, did you? You've always been the predators, never the prey. Blue turned away. Jack left the photos on the table. 3 months after capturing the scout ship, the resistance leaders gathered again. Susan had big news. We've cracked their communication codes, she announced. We can listen to everything they say to each other. And more importantly, we can send our own messages. Dr. Neal added his own breakthrough. Their weapons and shields operate on a frequency we can disrupt. Not forever, but long enough to attack. Jack outlined the next step. The Valkyrie have set up their main Earth headquarters in what used to be Los Angeles. That's where they coordinate the labor camps and resource collection. We're going to hit it. Lisa, the former CIA operative, looked skeptical. That base has hundreds of aliens and heavy defenses. We only have about 2,000 fighters worldwide. We don't need to destroy it, Jack explained. We just need to send a message. The plan took weeks to organize. Resistance cells from across North America gathered supplies and fighters. Using the scout ship's technology, they built more disruptors and weapons that could pierce Valkyrie armor. Jack spent hours with Blue, not asking questions anymore, just talking about human history, about wars and atrocities, about how humans had created rules specifically because they knew what they were capable of without them. Your people think the Geneva Conventions show we're weak, Jack told the alien. They don't understand we created them because we're so good at killing each other that we needed rules to stop ourselves. Blue's eyes had changed over time. The ew glow was dimmer, more focused. If humans are such skilled killers, why have you not eliminated my species yet? Jack leaned forward. Because we're giving you a chance to learn. But that chance won't last forever. The day of the attack came. 2,000 resistance fighters converged on Los Angeles from all directions. They wore no uniforms, carried hidden weapons, and looked like ordinary civilians returning to the city for the Valkyrie-mandated population count. Jack led the main strike team. He, Susan, and 20 other fighters had a special mission while the rest created diversions across the city. The Valkyrie commander has an office on the top floor of what used to be City Hall, Jack briefed his team. We're going to pay him a visit. The attack began at noon. Disruptors activated across the city, causing Valkyrie technology to fail. Their ships fell from the sky. Their weapons stopped working. For 20 minutes, the aliens were vulnerable. The resistance struck everywhere at once. Fighters who looked like ordinary people suddenly pulled out weapons and attacked. The Valkyrie, used to showing force rather than receiving it, fell into confusion. Jack's team fought their way through City Hall. The aliens inside were panicking, unused to their technology failing. Some tried to fight. Others ran. They've never faced a real enemy before, Susan remarked as they climbed the stairs. They've only conquered species that surrendered immediately. They reached the top floor. The Valkyrie commander's guards fought bravely but hopelessly. Jack's team had studied Valkyrie anatomy. They knew exactly where to shoot. The commander himself cowered behind his desk. His blue eyes pulsed rapidly when Jack entered the room. Impossible, the alien said. Humans cannot defeat Valkyrie. It defies all logic. Jack approached slowly. Your mistake was thinking we follow rules because we're weak. We follow rules because we know what happens when we don't. The commander reached for a hidden weapon. Jack shot one of his forearms. The alien screamed, a high-pitched sound that hurt human ears. We could kill you all, Jack continued. Right now. We have the knowledge and the will, but instead we're going to teach you something your species has never learned. Mercy. Susan connected her equipment to the alien's communication system. With a nod from Jack, she activated it. This message is for the Valkyrie High Fleet. Jack spoke clearly. Humans are not your food. We are not your labor force. We are not primitive savages. We are your worst nightmare. He showed the camera the photos of destroyed Valkyrie ships and dead aliens. This is what happens when you push humans to the edge. But we're giving you one chance. Remove all your forces from Earth within 7 days, or we will show you why. Humans created the concept of war crimes. The commander's eyes were wide with fear. The High Fleet will never agree. They will send reinforcements. Jack smiled coldly. We're counting on it. As the team left City Hall, explosions echoed across Los Angeles. The resistance had struck dozens of targets simultaneously, then vanished back into the population. To the Valkyrie, it seemed like humans could be anywhere, anyone. That night at their mountain base, Jack visited Blue one last time. Your people sent a response, he told the alien. They're sending their main battle fleet. They think they can crush us with numbers. Blue's eyes were dim now, almost thoughtful. You wanted this to happen? Jack nodded. Your leaders still don't understand what they're dealing with. But you do, don't you? You've been our prisoner for months. You've learned what humans are. Blue looked away. Humans are contradictions, capable of kindness and terrible violence. You restrain yourselves with rules, then break those rules when threatened. The alien's voice was quieter now. The High Fleet has never encountered a species like yours. No, Jack agreed. They haven't, and that's why they'll lose. As he left the room, Jack thought about what was coming. The Valkyrie were bringing their full might to Earth, expecting to crush human resistance once and for all. They had no idea they were falling into a trap centuries in the making. Humans had been preparing for alien invasion without even knowing. At every war, every battle in human history had taught them something the Valkyrie could never understand: how to be monsters, and how to stop themselves from becoming monsters. Until now. 6 weeks passed since the basement meeting in Chicago. The resistance grew stronger each day. Jack Miller traveled between hidden camps, teaching others what he knew about guerrilla warfare. "We can't fight them head-on," he explained to a group of former soldiers and civilians in an abandoned subway tunnel beneath Boston. "But we can make them afraid to walk our streets." Susan Harper arrived with news. The former Navy intelligence officer had built a network of hackers who were finding ways into Valkyrie systems. "I have something," she said, spreading papers on the makeshift table. "We've decoded some of their communications. The aliens aren't just mining resources. They're processing humans in those camps." The room went silent. "Processing?" asked a former Army medic named Paul. Susan's face hardened. "For food and biological materials. They see us as livestock." Jack felt cold anger spread through his body. The aliens weren't just conquerors, they were farmers. And humans were the crop. "We need to hit them where it hurts," said Frank, a police officer who had joined the resistance. "But how? Their technology is too advanced." Jack looked at the maps on the wall showing known Valkyrie positions. "Superior technology doesn't matter if you don't see the attack coming. The Valkyrie have no concept of terrorism or guerrilla tactics. They fight wars of conquest, not survival." He pointed to a marked location outside the city. "This is a small Valkyrie outpost, only 5 of them, monitoring communications. We start there." 3 nights later, Jack led a team of 6 through the woods near the Valkyrie outpost. They wore no uniforms, carried no military IDs, just ordinary people with hunting rifles and homemade explosives. The aliens had set up their base in an old ranger station. They had force fields and energy weapons, but they hadn't bothered with simple security measures like guards. Why would they? Humans were beaten, surrendered. Jack signaled to his team. They moved silently through the trees, placing small packages at key points around the structure. These were special devices created by Dr. Neal, a physics professor who had joined the resistance. He claimed they would disrupt the alien technology for a short time. "In position," whispered Susan through their earpieces. Jack pressed the detonator. There was no explosion. Instead, a high-pitched whine filled the air. Inside the station, lights flickered and died. The team moved in fast, breaking windows and doors. The Valkyrie inside stumbled around in confusion, their weapons dead in their hands. For the first time, Jack saw fear in those glowing blue eyes. The aliens had never expected humans to fight back, and they certainly hadn't expected humans to figure out how to disable their technology. "Tie them up," Jack ordered. The team worked quickly, using plastic zip ties on the aliens' forearms. One of the Valkyrie made a strange clicking sound that might have been their version of screaming. Susan connected her laptop to the alien computers. "I need 10 minutes, she said. Jack nodded and turned to the alien who seemed to be in charge. "You understand our language, so understand this. We know what you're doing to humans in those camps." The Valkyrie's eyes pulsed rapidly. "You are food source. It is the natural order." Jack leaned closer. "There's nothing natural about what's coming for you." Susan downloaded everything she could from the alien systems. The team grabbed weapons, communication devices, and anything else that looked useful. Then they rigged the station with real explosives. As they melted back into the forest, the night lit up behind them. The message was sent. The resistance was. Real word spread quickly through hidden channels. Small victories happened across the globe. A Valkyrie patrol disappeared in Moscow. An alien communications tower mysteriously collapsed in Cape Town. Their supply ships reported equipment failure in Rio de Janeiro. 1 month after the first attack, resistance leaders gathered in an old bomb shelter beneath Detroit. Representatives came from all continents, former soldiers and civilians alike. "The aliens are getting nervous," said Yuri, who coordinated Eastern European resistance cells. "They've doubled security around major bases. But they still don't understand who they're fighting," added Lisa, a former CIA operative. "They're looking for armies, not people who look like ordinary civilians." Susan shared what she had learned from hacked Valkyrie communications. "They're calling us aberrant specimens. They think we're defective because we're fighting back when their studies showed we should be passive." Jack stood up. "That's exactly why we'll win. They studied human warfare but missed the most important lesson. When we fight each other, we hold back. When we fight for survival against a different species, those rules don't apply." He pointed to a large map showing known Valkyrie bases and patrol routes. "It's time to go bigger. We need to capture one of their ships." The plan was dangerous. A Valkyrie scout ship landed weekly at a small outpost in rural Pennsylvania to collect mineral samples. The aliens followed the same schedule every time. That predictability would be their downfall. 2 days later, Jack led 20 resistance fighters to positions around the landing zone. Dr. Neal had created more disruptor devices, stronger this time. "Remember," Jack told the team, "we need the Kai ship intact and at least one alien alive." The Valkyrie ship arrived exactly on schedule, a sleek silver craft about the size of a city bus. It landed gracefully in the clearing. The ramp opened, and 4 aliens walked out, carrying equipment. "Now," Jack whispered into his radio. The disruptors activated. The ship's lights flickered and the aliens stumbled. The resistance fighters emerged from hiding, weapons ready. 3 of the Valkyrie reached for their weapons and were shot immediately. The 4th raised its 4 hands in surrender. Jack approached the alien, rifle aimed at its chest. "Your people think humans are weak because we created rules for warfare. Rules against killing prisoners, rules against torture, rules against targeting civilians." The alien's eyes pulsed rapidly. "What you don't understand," Jack continued, "is why we needed those rules in the first place." They secured the alien with restraints and boarded the ship. Susan and Dr. Neal went straight to the control systems, figuring out how it worked. "Can fly it," Susan announced after 30 minutes. "Not into space, but enough to move it to our secure location." As they lifted off, Jack looked at their alien prisoner. For the first time, a Valkyrie was experiencing something new. Being powerless against humans. "You're making a mistake," the alien said through its translator. "The High Fleet will destroy your entire species for this resistance." Jack smiled coldly. "No. Your mistake was thinking that humans follow rules because we're weak. We follow rules because without them we're the most dangerous species you've ever encountered. And you're about to learn why." The Valkyrie response came 3 days after Jack's message. Massive ships appeared in Earth's orbit, far larger than the original invasion fleet. The Resistance monitored alien communications, translating their battle plans. "They're sending ground forces to every major city," Susan reported during an emergency meeting. "They plan to round up all humans and process them immediately. No more labor camps." Jack studied the data on the screen. The aliens were coming in full force just as he had planned. "How many ships total?" 213, Dr. Neal answered. "Far more than we can fight directly." Jack nodded. "We don't need to fight them all. We just need to capture one." The resistance leaders looked at him with confusion. Lisa spoke first. "Jack, we barely managed to take a small scout ship. These are warships." "Yes," Jack agreed, "with much more powerful technology that we can use." He turned to Dr. Neal. "Tell them what you found." The scientist cleared his throat. "The Valkyrie ships are connected through a central network. Their weapons, shields, and engines all operate on the same frequency. If we could access the command codes from a major vessel, we could potentially affect all their ships at once." Jack pointed to a blinking dot on their radar. "This ship has landed outside Washington, D.C. It's their forward command post. We're going to take it. The plan was dangerous but simple. While Valkyrie troops spread across the city looking for humans, a small team would infiltrate their ship using the knowledge gained from their prisoner. Blue had become increasingly cooperative as time passed. Whether from fear or understanding, the alien had revealed crucial information about Valkyrie's ship layouts and security systems. Their greatest weakness is overconfidence, Blue had explained. The command ship will have minimal internal security, because they cannot imagine anyone would dare to attack it. The night before the mission, Jack visited Blue one last time. Tomorrow it ends, he said. One way or another. Blue's eyes pulsed slowly. What will happen to me if you succeed? Jack considered the question. That depends on your people. We don't want to destroy the Valkyrie. We just want them to leave us alone. And if they refuse? Jack's face hardened. Then we'll show them what humans are truly capable of when fighting for survival. The next morning, Jack led a team of 30 resistance fighters toward Washington, D.C. They wore stolen Valkyrie worker uniforms taken from human collaborators. Susan had forged identification codes that would get them past the outer checkpoints. The command ship sat in the National Mall, a massive dark shape that blocked the view of the monuments. Valkyrie troops moved in and out, coordinating the sweep of the city. Remember, Jack told his team as they approached. Once inside, we have 15 minutes to reach the central control room before the disruptors wear off. Stay together and follow, the map Blue gave us. Guards at the entry ramp scanned their fake IDs. Jack held his breath, but the plan worked. The aliens waved them through, assuming they were human workers assigned to the ship. Inside, the vessel was vast and eerily quiet. Blue lights pulsed along the corridors. The air smelled like metal and something sweet that made human throats itch. This way, Susan whispered, following the memorized path. They passed several Valkyrie who barely glanced at them. Just as Blue had said, the aliens were overconfident. They reached a massive door marked with alien symbols. According to Blue, this was the ship's control center. 2 guards stood outside. Jack nodded to his team. They activated their disruptors. The guards' weapons immediately died. Before they could call for help, Jack's team subdued them. The door, no longer receiving power, slid open easily when forced. Inside, 5 Valkyrie officers turned in surprise. The resistance fighters moved quickly, using stun weapons developed from alien technology. In 30 seconds, the control center was theirs. Susan immediately went to work on the main computer. I need 10 minutes, she said, connecting her equipment. You have 5, Jack replied, positioning fighters at the door. They'll figure out something's wrong soon. An alarm suddenly blared through the ship. One of the unconscious aliens must have triggered a silent alert. We've got company, shouted Frank from the doorway. The sound of many feet approached rapidly. Hold them off, Jack ordered. Susan needs more time. The fighters took positions, using the alien doorway as a choke point. When the first Valkyrie troops appeared, they were met with concentrated fire. The aliens fell back unused to such fierce resistance. 2 more minutes, Susan called, her fingers flying over her keyboard. The aliens tried again, this time throwing some kind of grenade. Jack kicked it back into the hallway where it exploded in a flash of blue light. Done, Susan finally announced. I've got control of their network. Jack moved to her side. On the screen, he could see the status of every Valkyrie ship in Earth's orbit. Send the message. Susan pressed a final key. Throughout the ship, the lights flickered. In the hallway, the aliens' weapons went dead. The same thing was happening on every Valkyrie vessel around the planet. Using the ship's communication system, Jack broadcast to the entire alien fleet. His face appeared on every Valkyrie screen. This is Jack Miller of Earth. We now control your entire network. Your weapons are disabled. Your engines are locked. You are at our mercy. He paused, letting that sink in. Then he played the video they had prepared. It showed scenes from human history, war crimes trials after World War II, the signing of the Geneva Conventions, international courts sentencing war criminals. Humans created rules for warfare because we know exactly what we're capable of without them. Jack explained. We could destroy your entire species right now. One command would overload your ship reactors and kill every Valkyrie in Earth's orbit. He leaned closer to the camera. But we choose not to. Not because we're weak, but because we understand something you don't. Restraint. Power isn't about what you can do. It's about what you choose not to do. The ship fell silent. Even the Valkyrie in the hallway had stopped trying to break through. You have 1 hour to order all your forces to withdraw from Earth, Jack continued. If you refuse, we will demonstrate why humans created the concept of war crimes in the first place. As Jack ended the transmission, a new message appeared on the screen. It came from the Valkyrie High Command ship in orbit. We wish to negotiate, it read. Susan looked at Jack with wide eyes. They're backing down. Jack shook his head. They're buying time. They still don't truly understand what they're dealing with. He turned to his team. Prepare Phase 2. It's time to show them exactly what humans are capable of. 1 hour passed. The Valkyrie High Command requested more time. Jack gave them 30 minutes more. While they waited, his team secured the command ship, locking down sections and controlling access points. They're stalling, Susan said, monitoring communications between Valkyrie ships. They're trying to bypass our control of their network. Jack nodded. I expected that. Are the packages in place? Frank checked his tablet. Resistance teams confirm all targets are ready. Just waiting for your signal. Jack took a deep breath. What came next would change everything. It would prove to the aliens exactly what humans were capable of when pushed too far. Send the images to all their ships, he ordered. Susan activated the prepared files. On every Valkyrie vessel, screens showed satellite images of their most important ships. Small objects appeared next to each one. Simple human nuclear devices, placed by resistance swimmers and climbers. This is our final warning, Jack broadcast. Those are 50-year-old human weapons attached to your most valuable ships. Primitive by your standards, but effective enough. We could detonate them now and destroy half your fleet. He paused, letting the threat sink in. But we won't. Because unlike you, we understand the concept of proportional response. You have 5 minutes to order a complete withdrawal from Earth, or we will demonstrate our capability on a single target. The response was immediate. Panicked communications erupted between Valkyrie ships. They had never imagined humans would use such methods. Their studies had shown that humans avoided using nuclear weapons even against each other. They're trying to disarm the devices, Susan reported. Should we detonate one to prove we're serious? Jack shook his head. No need. They'll surrender. He had studied the Valkyrie carefully during captivity. They were conquerors, not martyrs. They wouldn't risk death when retreat was an option. 4 minutes passed. Then a message appeared from the Valkyrie Supreme Commander. We will withdraw. Request meeting for terms. The resistance team looked at each other in stunned silence. They had done it. Humans had beaten a technologically superior force through sheer determination and willingness to do whatever was necessary. Set up the meeting, Jack told Susan, and make sure they understand who they're dealing with. 2 days later, Jack sat in the former United Nations building in New York. Across from him was the Valkyrie Supreme Commander, a taller alien with golden skin and 6 arms instead of 4. Guards from both species stood at a distance, weapons ready. You have earned our respect, the Supreme Commander began. No species has ever defeated Valkyrie forces before. Jack's face remained neutral. We didn't want to fight. You forced this by treating us as livestock. The alien's eyes pulsed, slowly. Our studies showed humans were not true predators. You hesitate to kill. You care for the weak. You create rules for conflict. These are not traits of a dominant species. That's where you're wrong, Jack replied. Humans don't follow rules because we're weak. We follow rules because without them we're too dangerous, even to ourselves. He placed a tablet on the table showing videos of human history, world wars, genocide, atomic bombings, the worst of humanity's past. We created the Geneva Conventions and rules against war crimes because we know exactly what we're capable of, Jack explained. What you saw during this conflict was humans with our restrictions removed. Imagine what would happen if we decided your entire species needed to be eliminated. The Supreme Commander's eyes widened. For the first time, the alien truly understood. Humans weren't prey who created rules from weakness. They were predators who created rules from wisdom. "We will leave your world," the Supreme Commander said. "All Valkyrie forces will withdraw within 7 days." Jack nodded. "And the other worlds you've conquered, the other species you're processing as food?" The alien hesitated. "They are not human concern." "They are now," Jack said firmly. "Part of our terms is that you free all captive species and return to your home system. No more conquests, no more processing sentient beings." "Impossible," the Supreme Commander protested. "Valkyrie require biological materials from other species." Jack leaned forward. "Then find another way. Because if we ever learn you're still harvesting sentient beings, what happened here will seem merciful compared to what comes next." The negotiations continued for hours. In the end, the Valkyrie agreed to all human terms. They would leave Earth, free their captive species, and return to their home system to find alternative food sources. As the Supreme Commander prepared to leave, it asked one final question. How did humans become this way? Both compassionate and terrifying. Jack thought about it. We evolved as both prey and predator. We know what it's like to be hunted, and we know what it's like to hunt. That gave us something your species never developed. What is that? Empathy, Jack answered. The ability to understand others' suffering. We created rules for warfare because we could imagine what it felt like to be on the receiving end. The alien considered this. A strange evolutionary path. To become stronger by restraining strength. Not restraining, Jack corrected. Focusing it, controlling it. A weapon is most useful when you decide when and how to use it. 1 week later, Jack stood on a hillside watching the last Valkyrie ships leave Earth's atmosphere. Susan and the resistance leaders gathered around him. "We should maintain our defense network," Lisa suggested, "in case they return." Jack nodded. "We will, and we'll build it stronger. But I don't think they'll be back." Frank looked skeptical. "How can you be sure?" "Because we gave them something their species never had before," Jack explained. "Fear, not just of our weapons, but of what we represent. A species that creates rules against its own nature." As the ships disappeared from view, Jack thought about Blue, their former prisoner. The alien had requested to stay on Earth, to learn more about humans. Others might follow, seeking to understand the strange species that had defeated the mighty Valkyrie. Susan touched Jack's arm. "What now? The world is in chaos. The alien technology they left behind could change everything." Jack watched the sunset, thinking about humanity's future. Now we rebuild, and we remember what we learned about ourselves. "Which is what?" she asked. "That our greatest strength isn't our weapons or our technology," Jack said quietly. "It's our ability to create rules, and to know exactly when to break them." In the years that followed, humanity rebuilt and expanded to the stars. They encountered other species, some friendly, some not. But all of them learned the same lesson the Valkyrie had. Humans weren't to be underestimated, because humans understood something most species never learned. True power comes not from what you can do, but from what you choose not to do, until you have no choice.